there is this situation we wanted to lead off with. And this is, for those who don't know it, this is Kaleb Montgomery. And there was an issue apparently on the West Coast. I'll let y'all kind of figure it out. Kaleb Montgomery, really good West Coast sprint car driver. Or anything he can get into, that's how it is on the West Coast. You can't say no, you got to say yes. And this is a video titled, very simply, this video right now, last time I looked, it was at 20,000. That was yesterday. I can only imagine. It's got 134 shares, 300 plus likes, 70 comments. We're going to get into those just a little bit. But Dirt Vision, obviously the title of the video. But this kind of, slides into that category of the future of streaming and what it's going to look like meeting guys like CALI Dirt Videos. I'm going to play this real quick so everybody can kind of get an idea. I do believe Kaleb also has a Facebook page or a YouTube channel. He obviously has a Facebook page. I believe he also has a YouTube channel, so search that up, look that up. But CALI Dirt Videos also, if those on the West Coast, y'all know all about CALI Dirt Videos. If you don't, look it up. It's pretty good stuff for sure. Drones, GoPros, full race replays, and that's kind of what this is about. Heads upping against the full race replay. So here's what's the situation that Kaleb's bringing up right here.
Content showboat, we're not going to be doing a GoPro. We're not going to be talking about cars on track. We're talking about you, Shawn. I stand with Shawn, and I think this video needs to be made. I truly appreciate and value everything that Shawn does for this sport. And I think your passion and your love for California sprint car racing shines through in your videos. I truly believe what you're doing for us gains us more exposure, more views, more content. It only brings more eyes to what we're doing on the West Coast. And I truly value and love everything you do for us. As many of you may not know, Shawn is not allowed to go to a couple racetracks now because of reasons that I don't even fully understand. I have some sides of the story. I have Shawn's side. I have other sides. I have promoter sides. But more than that, I think where he's now hindered and not allowed to go forward is he can't be doing full race replays. And I think that's going to hurt us more than it helps us, truly. Because if you're watching a stream, all you see is the guys in the front. And you don't see the full action. You don't see the people who are in the back. You don't really see all that. And Shawn captures the whole thing. He puts GoPros on our cars. He's out there just doing what he loves, and he's passionate about it. And it's truly amazing how far he's grown and how much he's conquered in just a short amount of time on YouTube. It's crazy. And now he can't do that. He's allowed to still do pit walks. He's still allowed to put GoPros on cars. He's allowed to be no different than I or Tanner on YouTube, but he's not allowed to do what he loves, which is the full race replays. And I stand with him on the full race replays because I truly think they gain us more exposure, more light. And let's say if I'm scrolling on YouTube, I don't really know what's going on. I mean, because granted, I feel like the people that are watching us out on the West Coast are our moms, our grandpas, maybe a couple fans here and there that can't go that given weekend. Like, at the end of the day, what makes promoters money, I feel like, is people going to the races. It's not these streaming services. And I feel like Shawn exposes more of that, because you may get a clip of someone in the back doing a sick wheelie, or because Shawn videos the whole thing. He pans the camera. He started from nothing. He started with an iPhone. He came to the track just because he loves it. He was a fan. I don't know if you guys know this, but the guy has Trophy Cup 1, 2, and 3 t-shirts. He loves sprint car racing. Go to Shawn and say, like, oh, well, I want clips from...
Well, I think pretty much everybody can kind of get the gist of what's happening here. This guy named Shawn, who runs CALI Dirt Videos, can't do full race replays. And it sounds like streaming services are the ones that are requesting him not to do that. Now, there's a lot of people in here agreeing. There's a lot of people blaming Speed Sport. Speed Sport in itself is kind of a, not necessarily got the best fanfare over there on the West Coast, just because of how they do some stuff. I've heard from other streaming services they've had issues with them as well. It's a very weird situation. All I could really say is, like, you have a scenario here where I was having this conversation the other day. The the people going to YouTube and watching stuff, it's probably like one of the only few things of exposure of the sport that we got. You know, we saw that video the other day of that dude reacting to the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series, first time fan ever. That was in our last video, and he was just blown away. But where did he see that video? He saw it on YouTube. You know, that's where he got to even interact with the sport at all. Period. We've also talked about how streaming services kind of feed, and this is why, you know, we get back to kind of the argument here of what is, you know, tracks blaming streaming for low fan or people there at the track. And I've always sat here and said, I said, well, streaming's kind of feeding off of your, you know, back to businesses. It's supposed to be 80% rotational fans, 20% diehards, whether that's a restaurant. You got 20% of the people who go there every week, and then you got 80% of the people who go there a couple times a year, the rotational audience. And streaming, so the 20% of all of our fans is diehard fans. Those are the ones that are going to pay Flow. Those are the ones who are going to pay Dirt Vision. And it's up to the track, technically, to attract new fans, to go after the 80%, because the 20% is already going to be there. I do think track series organizations have kind of worried about the people in the pitting area more so than the situation in the grandstands, as far as trying to attract with increased purses and all this stuff. Obviously, I mean, fans like to see winning numbers and how much something is to win, but that's more so for the back gate of the situation. It feels like more so satisfying the egos of who wants to be paid more. But, you know, I've always kind of said, you know, tracks blaming streaming for low car attendance, or those promoters in particular, are lazy. They don't want to go out there and promote and get that 80% to the racetrack, the new fan. But I've also said here, and this is a very, you know, rotational conversation that I continue to have. I'm like, if Flow and Dirt Vision and all these people of streaming want to sit back and say, well, don't blame us, we're helping the sport, they could sit back and, you know, like I've been saying, go to Buffalo Wild Wings, go to these big chain operations like a Flow, offer a television dedicated to your app, Flow, for, you know, they have every kind of sport there is. So, but on a Saturday, Friday night situation, that screen's dedicated to the high limit race, or Monday or Tuesday or whatever is dedicated to the Flow Racing featured event, you know, whether that's Flow Racing Night in America or whatever. And that's how you can get this sport in a screen form, in a streaming form, to new people. And that would promote people to come to the tracks. It would also help promote their brand, which would be Flow. It would be plastered on all these televisions and their deals that they could strike in a restaurant chain situation. And it would also maybe promote them to actually acquire a fan in the app department as well. Now, this is all grand and gravy, but what I'm talking about, ideas and things like that, promoting to the new fan. Obviously, we just referenced how the new guy noticed on YouTube reacts to World of Outlaws. He found it there. Obviously, YouTube videos, most YouTube videos, if the channel has 1,000 subscribers or more, they are making money on views. Now, when we're talking about money on views, it is not a lot. I mean, you have to get a significant amount of views to really pay off, you know. Monthly, you know, I think, averaging here on the Chaz, maybe like $800, $600. Last year, or last couple of months since I've been running and going, it's like $200, $300, $400, $500, maybe something like that. It's not a real big money maker, but it's something. You know, it is something. And you know, Cali Dirt video, and I think this is where streaming and all the and really this comes down to the California situation. Cali Dirt is technically the issue here at hand. I think that everyone on the West Coast is scrounging for every penny that they can find, especially in this sports situation. It's recreational activity. You know, it's a situation where they're trying to act like PA, you know, where they have this, they do have really good race teams, really good race cars, paying well for some of the events, paying decent, you know, decent over there on a regional basis. NARC, they have their little touring series, SCCT, little touring series. They pay decently, you know, over there. They have a decent amount of cars. But the problem is, the one thing that California lacks behind for instance, like Pennsylvania, where the economics is probably the closest, or even a Knoxville on a weekly basis, which that's kind of supplemented through, kind of like Port Royal, supplemented through the local government governmental bodies, politics. California lacks the fans. They have some very hardcore fans on the West Coast, but overall, I mean, they can have some good nights. I mean, Peter Murphy really promotes very hard at his tracks. A bunch of different guys try to get it out there a little bit in certain areas, but they just don't have the fans like more saturated areas like Pennsylvania, for instance, or even Ohio, or some of these other areas where people flock to the racetrack when there's a race going on. And it's a lot of quarter miles over there. So the grandstands are not as big, so therefore the profiteering is not as big. You can only hold so many people. So even if you're selling out, it's only a certain amount of people. Placerville's a very small grandstand. So I think we're seeing a situation here where the West Coast streaming companies I'm sure the streaming companies, we're going to talk about this. This is basically going to be a big part of the video, Dirt Vision, obviously. A big part of that track streaming relationship over there, because everybody's trying to grab every penny that they can, is literally every penny that you can get. So whether that's Speed Sport having, the streaming rights to the event, or whatever streaming company having the streaming rights to the event, and additionally, the A-Main highlight videos on Facebook, all the YouTube, all the social media platforms, not just YouTube, but Facebook and everywhere, for A-Main, full race replays, and a lot of people understand that. Back to the back gate of the scenario, because there's probably more people in the back gate sometimes at these California races, and they're all in the front. And most of the time in a logical economical situation, we're worried about the front gate paying to be there to watch it on streaming to view the race. But sometimes, or in a situation, an economical situation where you have more people in the pitting area than you do in the grandstands, which sometimes I would guess is the case in California, a lot of the people wanting to rewatch the race are the drivers. A lot of people wanting to rewatch the race are maybe the people who were, just on the ground in the pitting area or helping on the crew or something like that. All these people want to watch the race. And I think some of these streaming companies recognize the value in full race replays. You go to Flow right now and you can watch full all-night replays. But if you could just go to YouTube without having to have that Flow membership and watch a full race replay on Cali Dirt, that could potentially threaten, who knows, $150 a year or one night or whatever streaming company is controlling it. But since the situation is so dire over there in the profiteering department, I think that's why it's becoming so strict in that region. I think that's why this Cali Dirt is being restricted. And honestly, full race replays, that is a lot. Obviously, you could still do the GoPros, the walk-arounds, all this stuff, all this highlight-ish things. You could probably even do feature A-Main highlight video, but it sounds like there's something with this full race replay. And I think the streaming companies see it as like, well, people probably want to watch the race all the way as if they were there. Or is it from another angle? And I'm sure there's some additions to this guy filming it in the way he does. I have seen him use a drone before. I hear that that's a bigger issue. I don't know if the licensing or whatever was going on there. Because, once again, anybody who has a drone, if you don't have a license, you technically can't shoot anything and profiteer from it at all. And that's the bigger difference between licensed droned and non-licensed droned. Obviously, insurance purposes too, because say the drone, you're at a racetrack, it's however feet in the air, and it has a malfunction, it falls down and crashes into somebody's head. If you're unlicensed, that is a huge, huge offense. I mean, first of all, it's a huge, huge offense to just get that close to a populated area, especially at an event. So that's the case. That's the case. Everything's okay and gravy. I ain't heard nothing about that, but there are some certain things that this guy does that the track hasn't been doing. But at the same time, once again, I think the hardcore issue here is the lack of the fan base, lack of proper economics in how the West Coast operates, because they're trying to act big because it's West Coast. They're the Hotel Californication. We got to have big races and big events and pay decently and all this stuff. So there's a lot of money still being put out over there, but the economics of the situation, for track promoters especially, have to be pretty difficult when you look at some of the front gates at these California racing events and looking in the grandstands. It ain't PA. It ain't Port Royal. It ain't, Knoxville on a Saturday night. I mean, their grandstands is 15 times the size of Placerville or Merced. So Knoxville can look empty and they got a full house compared to a little short track like that. So I'm just saying, I think that this is people, once again, obviously it's all going back to greed. That's pretty much what it always is going to be about. Oh, so you're telling me as Broke Joe would say, people know who that name is. You're telling me it's the money, Chaz. You're telling me it's the money. Well, I do think it is here because there is actual monetary value in YouTube replays, full race replays on Flow, and replays and highlights on Facebook as well. So there is value in that. But does it seem like they're going after just particular highlights? Probably that full race replay. And usually that full race replay that you want to find is usually on the streaming company's website to find the full race replay. We see highlights. We see, vlogs that are kind of highlighted as well. We see full race replays from the GoPro perspective. But as far as out of the car, seeing the entire full race, there are some at World of Outlaw events. I think I've seen, some people are doing it from the grandstands. But outside of that, you don't really see it that much. You have to go to dirtvision.com or flowracing.com or one of these platforms and click the full race replay or you could do the full night replay. It'll be like a 6-hour clip, or something like that, depending on how horrible they got to work the track over and over. But interesting scenario.
This is how we ride. This is how we do.